Yo, what's going on, guys? Today I'm going to be going over the MLB slate on DraftKings for Tuesday, June the 18th. We got the full 15 for Tuesday's slate, full 15 games. So there's a lot to talk about, a lot of pitching to talk about. We'll start there, work our way from top to bottom. I'll be sure to hit on all the guys that I'm going to be playing today that I'm going to have in my player pool. Then we'll go over 3 hitters I really like once we get done with pitching. We'll talk about some stacks I'll be going to. Then towards the end of the video, we'll look at some BVP plays for those of you that are interested in BVP. Just before we do get started though, guys, I would appreciate it if you would drop a like on the video. And if you are new to the channel, make sure you click that subscribe button down below so that way you won't miss out on any of my new videos. So starting off at the top, Justin Verlander is our most expensive option today. He's pitching on the road in Cincinnati against the Reds. He is $11,900. Verlander is definitely worth this price tag. He's been great this year. He's been probably one of the most consistent pitchers in the league. You just look at the DraftKings game log, or at least in all of his starts this year, besides that one against Seattle, he's been 20 DraftKings points or more. You can pretty much pencil in Verlander for 20 plus DK points. But when you're paying $11,900 for him in tournaments, at least 20, 25 DK points is not really going to cut it. You need him to go out there and put up 30, 35, close to 40 DK points. Could he do that against the Reds? I'm sure he could, but this isn't the easiest matchup. The Reds don't have a ton of strikeouts in their lineup. You can get some Ks from the bottom, but like Joey Votto's not going to K much. Suarez is a really good hitter. You do prefer Suarez against a lefty, but like Derek Dietrich, a lot of power. He will strike out a bit, but still a ton of power. Same can be said for Puig. It's just not the easiest matchup for Verlander. It's a really tough pitcher's park as well. Reds Ballpark, Great American Ballpark, is one of the more favorable hitters' parks. Plus, it's the National League, so Justin Verlander is going to have to hit. So there's a chance that he gets pulled maybe earlier than he would normally get pulled since he's going to have to hit. So for that reason, I think Verlander's a guy we can avoid today. I wouldn't say avoid, but he doesn't have to be a guy you just go heavy on. I think you can get some better upside for cheaper when it comes to points per dollar. Like if Verlander scores 35, then I think you can get like 20, 25 out of some of these guys that are $4,000 cheaper. So for that reason, I think I'm going to save the salary, look for some cheaper guys, and then pay up for bats that I really like. But if I am paying up for one of those stud guys, it's going to be Verlander. Would much rather play him over Kershaw. Kershaw has a good matchup against the Giants, but Kershaw just doesn't have the strikeout upside that Verlander has, especially at this point in his career. So no Kershaw for me today. Cole Hamels against the White Sox I think does give you some upside, but Cole Hamels is so closely priced to Jacob deGrom. I know it's a tough matchup for Jacob deGrom against the Braves, but I would just rather play deGrom. He's a more talented pitcher. I think he just has more upside just in his game. Even though it's a tough matchup with the Braves, give me deGrom over Hamels if I'm going 10K, in the 10K range. But if I can get all the way to the top to Verlander, he would be the guy that I would try and get to. And there are a lot of good value pitchers I like today, so you can play Verlander with a cheap pitcher because there's a couple guys we'll talk about when we get down there. But getting past these 10K guys, talking about some of the mid-range plays, a couple of guys I want to hit on here. Brandon Woodruff against the Padres I like quite a bit. This is a Padres team that's mostly right-handed heavy. Only lefties in the projected lineup, or at least the only lefty in the projected lineup is Eric Hosmer. Brandon Woodruff, really good against righties, gets strikeouts against righties. He's been great this year. It's a really good pitcher's park, pitching in Petco. I think Brandon Woodruff gives you a lot of upside at 9,300. I think Jack Flaherty at 8,700 against the Marlins gives you a ton of upside as well. I really like Jack Flaherty here. Mikolas was a guy that I played quite a bit of on Monday. We'll see how that goes. The game hasn't started yet. On Tuesday, though, I'm going to be going right back to these Cards pitchers. I like Flaherty a lot here against this Marlins team that has a 3.5 implied run total, very low total today. Flaherty is a heavy favorite, minus 202. Plenty of strikeouts in this Marlins lineup. It's a pretty good pitcher's park. Cardinal Stadium is not the worst pitcher's park, or not the best pitcher's park, but it's definitely not the worst either. So I do like Flaherty quite a bit. I know he's been struggling lately, but some of that has to do with tough matchups, like against the Cubs on the road. In that start against the Mets, he did pretty well in terms of Ks. Did give up a home run that really hurt him a bit, but he went 100 pitches in that game with 8 strikeouts. Flaherty is a guy that gives you a lot of K upside. Kind of unlike Mikolas. Mikolas is not a guy that's going to go out there and get like 8, 9 strikeouts. Flaherty is that guy that can go out there and get 8, 9, 10 strikeouts, especially against the Marlins. So I like him quite a bit at 8,700. You have Woodruff in that price range you could go to as well, but I think Flaherty's the guy that I like today at 8,700. And then once you get past like Woodruff and Flaherty, there's not a ton of other cheap options out, or mid-range options I should say, that I really am interested in. Like maybe you could consider J.A. Happ against the Rays. The Rays are the most strikeout heavy team against left-handed pitching. I know Happ has not been great lately. Definitely has given you some rough outings, especially like in his last start against the White Sox. I kind of thought he would pitch well there, especially because he had been pitching so well before that, but really struggled in his last start. But now he does face a very K-heavy team in the Rays versus left-handed pitching. So Happ does give you some upside at 7,500. He is definitely going to be a guy that I have in my player pool today. If I need to go to him at 7,500, he will definitely be a guy that I wouldn't mind putting in a couple lineups. Then once we get to the value guys, there's a couple value plays I want to hit on. So Mitch Keller at home, 6,900 against the Tigers. I like him quite a bit as a value here. So he's not been great this year. He's really struggled. Against Cincinnati, he did get 7 Ks in that start, but gave up a home run, gave up 6 runs in that start, just 5 DraftKings points. And then in his last start against the Braves, he just absolutely demolished 6 runs, 10 hits, only 2 strikeouts through 3 innings. Somewhat tough matchups through 2 starts for Keller, on the road against the Braves and then on the road against the Reds in Great American Ballpark. Now he gets to pitch against this really bad Tigers lineup in PNC, a pretty favorable pitcher's park. I think we're going to see Mitch Keller have some success here. I know he's been bad lately, but I would not be surprised if he gets things going in this start against the Tigers. So 6,900, I think he's a really good value if you're going 7K and below and you need a cheap pitcher. I also think Brett Anderson's a pretty good value, as gross as it sounds. Brett Anderson might be one of the best value pitchers on the slate. He's at home in Oakland, a great pitcher's park. He's facing the Orioles, a really bad lineup, a lineup that does have strikeouts in it. Also a very low total for the Orioles, just a 3.6 implied run total for them. Brett Anderson is a heavy favorite at minus 230. Plenty of Ks in this lineup. Brett Anderson, not a guy kind of like Mikolas that's going to go out there and get strikeouts, but in this ballpark, if he can just go 5, 6 innings with a couple Ks, only give up a run or two, get a win, you could see Brett Anderson easily put up 20-plus DraftKings points. And at 6,200, he just makes so much sense as a value pitcher. At home is where I do like to target Brett Anderson. If I'm ever going to play him, I want to play him when he's at home in that very favorable pitcher's park. So that's why I'm going to be going to him today. I like the matchup. I like the price tag. I like the fact that he's at home. A lot of things point well for Brett Anderson here in this matchup with the Orioles. So he's probably my favorite value pitcher. You could definitely go to Keller at 6,900 as well. Keller honestly probably gives you more strikeout upside, but I think Brett Anderson might be a bit safer for $700 less. But then once you get past Keller and Anderson, there's not a ton that I love for value. Maybe you could consider a guy like Kikuchi at home against the Royals, 5,300. Somewhat easy matchup against the Royals. Not the best lineup, especially once you get past the top few hitters. But the Royals are not a team that's going to strike out that much, especially like the top guys. You can get some Ks from the bottom. But Kikuchi, he's been really bad this year. He's really struggled this year. The game logs look really ugly. -5, -11, -10. His last start against the Twins, he was okay with 12 DraftKings points. He's dirt cheap. He's 5,300, so I could see leaving him in your player pool. And if you get him in a couple lineups, I wouldn't mind it, but I would prefer to get up to Anderson or to get up to Mitch Keller. But I think that's it for pitcher today, guys. We have a ton of salary to pay for bats. We didn't really spend at pitcher today. We got Flaherty and Anderson. That leaves us almost 4,400 remaining per player. So we're definitely going to be looking at some expensive bats. Starting off in the outfield, I really like the Dodgers today versus Sean Anderson. Really like Cody Bellinger at 5,700. He is definitely one of my favorite spend-up options if you can spend up in the outfield. So Sean Anderson this year has kind of benefited from pitching at home in Oracle Park, which we know is one of the most favorable pitchers' parks. On the road, he struggled a bit. He had to face the Mets in Met Stadium. Gave up 2 home runs in that start, 3 runs, just 8 DraftKings points. He did face the Orioles in Camden Yards and managed to pitch well, only allowing 1 home run, 2 runs, 20 DK points. But in his debut, he pitched at home against Arizona and gave up 4 runs, a home run, -0.8 DK points. His last start against the Padres, he was pretty good with 21 DraftKings points, but he still managed to give up 2 runs in that start. That start was also at home in Oracle. Now he has to face the Dodgers on the road in Dodger Stadium. Dodger Stadium is not a very good hitter's park. It's actually more favorable for pitchers. but it's definitely not the pitcher's park that Oracle Park is. Kind of see it in the total here, 5.1 implied run total for the Dodgers. Sean Anderson, in a limited sample size this year, will definitely give up home runs, especially to lefties. So love Cody Bellinger, love Jock Peterson. I think Peterson's a great play at 4,300 leading off. If you need value, you got Verdugo at 3,800, Beatty at 3,300. Even the righties are in play for me, like Chris Taylor, I wouldn't mind. Justin Turner, I wouldn't mind. But Peterson, Verdugo, Bellinger, Muncy, those are the guys that I would really be focusing on if I was stacking the Dodgers. And obviously, Cody Bellinger's at the top of the list. Just such a good hitter, ton of power, having a career year. I think he has like 22, 23 homers on the year. We'll look at it real quickly. On the year, 23 home runs. Pretty sure that leads the league. Would not be surprised if he adds to his total today. So love paying up for Bellinger in the outfield. And then at shortstop, I love paying up here as well. I do like the Indians again. I did have a decent amount of Indian stacks on Monday, especially like mini stacks. But full stacking the Indians, I think, is going to be something I'd look to do today. Really like Francisco Lindor leading off at 5,300. He's very expensive, but we've got the salary to fit him in since we didn't pay up at pitcher. Lindor is just a guy that has a ton of upside, a lot of power, a lot of speed. Facing Adrian Sampson in Texas, we see it in the total. The Indians look really good here, 5.5 implied run total. They've got a lot of value in their lineup as well, especially in the middle part of the lineup with Kipnis, Ramirez, and Jake Bauers, all under 4K. So if you go with Kipnis, Ramirez, and Bauers, a part of your Indian stacks, that's going to allow you to get in the expensive guys at the top, specifically Lindor and Santana I would really like. Obviously Lindor, though, is just a top play at shortstop if you can fit him in. I know Sampson has been better lately. He's been pitching better, but at home in Texas against this Cleveland team that does have some power, I really like going to Cleveland here. Not going to be on Sampson. Would much rather prefer to play some of these Cleveland bats. So love Lindor at shortstop, and then Jason Kipnis, a guy that I played quite a bit of on Monday. Going to be going back to him again. Still dirt cheap, just 3,200. This is a guy that does have a little bit of power. I know he hasn't shown it this year, but he did homer on Sunday. We'll see how he does on Monday night. If he has a good game Monday night, he's probably going to be really popular today, but for good reason. Getting a cheap shortstop or getting a cheap second baseman at 3,200, batting cleanup for a team with a 5.5 implied run total. Really hard to pass up, especially if you're stacking the Indians or if you're playing cash games. Kipnis just looks like an auto play at his price tag. So I do like him quite a bit if you're looking for a value second baseman. But I think that's it for my 5 plays today, guys. Let's go ahead and talk about some stacks now. We'll look at some BVP plays as well. So my favorite stack today is probably going to be the Dodgers when you factor in just what I expect their ownership to be. I don't think the Dodgers are going to be that popular because their 5.1 implied run total is a lot lower than some of the other teams on this slate. So guys like Peterson, Bellinger, Muncy, Verdugo, those guys are going to be sort of top priorities for me, especially Cody Bellinger, and Peterson, and Muncy, the guys that have a lot of power. Sean Anderson giving up a ton of home runs this year. Getting him out of Oracle Park, I like quite a bit here. So I do like going to some of those Dodgers bats. Some Oakland bats versus Gabriel Ynoa, I think make a lot of sense. 5.6 implied run total for Oakland. I do like going there. Definitely like some Red Sox bats versus Michael Pineda. Pineda is a guy that gives up a lot of home runs. Mookie Betts under 5K, Benintendi under 5K, I like quite a bit. Devers, Bogarts also under 5K. And then you got value at the bottom of the lineup with Holt, Vasquez. Michael Chavez isn't really that cheap, but Jackie Bradley's cheap. Definitely want to stack the Red Sox if I can. And then obviously I like the Indians a lot here versus Adrian Sampson. Definitely going to go to some Indians bats. We'll probably be playing some Texas bats as well on the other side. 5.1 implied run total for them versus Zach Plesac. And then scrolling up, looking at some of the other teams on this slate with high totals. The Yankees have a 5.4 implied run total versus Ryan Yarbrough. And it looks like they are going to get Giancarlo Stanton back here. So that's going to make the Yankees a very appealing stack. This lineup is just so good. The fact that they have Didi Gregorius batting 8th just shows you how good this lineup is. LeMahieu, Voit, Stanton, Sanchez, Encarnacion, Hicks, Torres. Such a tough spot for Ryan Yarbrough. I do like going to some of these Yankees bats versus him. But I think that's it for stacks today, guys. Those are the stacks I'm going to be going to. I mentioned about 5 or 6 teams. Definitely going to be spreading out my stack ownership today. I'm not going to go too heavy on any team. Just going to be mixing it in with the 5, 6 teams I talked about. Just mixing them in across my lineups. But now looking at BVP real quick before we end the video. There's quite a bit of BVP plays today, but I'm just going to cover the ones that really stand out to me. So Mike Trout gone 8 for 16 off of Marcus Stroman, a 500 average. Jason Hayward 8 for 22 with a home run off of Von Nova. Mookie Betts 7 for 23, 2 home runs off Michael Pineda. Down here at the bottom, big sample size. Buster Posey's gone 25 for 108 off Clayton Kershaw, 3 home runs off of Kershaw. CJ Cron 8 for 24, a home run off David Price. So those are just a couple BVP plays for today. I think that is it for the video, guys. Hopefully you did enjoy this video, and hopefully it did help you. If you enjoyed, make sure you click that like button down below, and make sure you subscribe if you have not already. And if you do have any questions, feel free to leave them down in the comment section below. Or like always, you can hit me up on Twitter at the DFS_GOAT if you do have any questions. But yeah, guys, that's pretty much it. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed, and we'll see you in the next one. Good luck tonight. Peace.